go sailing with them in this program. I'm going to be the classic guy, stupid thing. If you call my wife and ask her if she wants to go sailing, she's going to go clear Elizabeth's violin lesson and shuffle Kate's thing around so that all four of us can show up. Because she sees it as something that everybody can do. So now there's two ways of understanding why it's valuable to her, or it's valuable that she be there. One is she's in control of the calendar, clearly. But much more important than that, if she was in the classic family today, she'd be the one with the most baggage from the way family is spent, or family time is spent. She's now got a job, because most women have them. She's as important to the economics of the house as anybody else, but I'm still a lazy jerk when it comes to picking up. So Saturdays are now not times reserved for families. They're times used for shopping and vacuuming, because it's the only way you can make that happen. So what happens when you put the mom on the boat is a couple things take shape. One is the family has to find a way to cooperate to keep the household together, which is harder to do. The compromise is made. But the other thing is she's just stepped into a role model role that is much more valuable and interesting to her than what she was stuck with before. Okay, you with me? So on the mom side, when you say gender, I go to girls, yeah, absolutely, and I think you can bring many of them in. But boy, bring the mom in, bring the mom in, bring the mom in, because that.
My point was, in my experience, limited experience with young girls and boys on boats. Girls are much more interested in what an out-haul does, or I mean, even race committees, what's going on with that. The boys just want to get to where we're going so we can go ashore and play on the playground in Northport. Or
this might be completely speculative, or it is completely speculative, but I wonder if there's a right brain, left brain orientation thing here. I mean, girls are classically more spatial at 16, 17 than boys are. Boys are much more serial at that point. Following things around they shouldn't be following around in order, right? So, let me go at it from a slightly different angle and tackle kids by age group. If I were to approach my daughter now and say, all right, kid, we're going to start fly fishing tomorrow. So next summer. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to the bait shop and get waders and some pheromones, and we're going to tie flies in the basement, and then we're going to head out and walk into cold water and catch a fish we have to throw back. She's going to say, Dad, pound sand. There's no way. At 17, I got a boyfriend and a flute, and I like sailing. That's what I like to do. But if from 3 she was engaged in the activity of flying ties, then by the time we get to 17, she's an expert. It's part of who she is, right? She's much less likely to say no. I think that kind of a start from 3 thing works just as well with boys as it does with girls. And with boys, to me, it's so important for stickiness to start them super early so that they can be thinking spatially by the time 17 happens, to know that there's a better alternative and it's outside and it can be intergenerational. You with me? I go to start early all the time.
So 7 was too late.
And 7 is always too late. My gosh, 7 months feels like it's too late to me sometimes, because we didn't get the chance to have them fall asleep down below and experience that and not get sick. I feel like it's from now. As soon as it happens, and that's completely. By the way, organizations like this can enable that. They can say, there's no reason why families can't start sailing at 2 or 3 years old. We can get this written into our rider. We're going to have some new requirements, like we're going to have car seats on the boats, right, and underway, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's completely within our frameworks to make that starting early thing possible. And then the gender split doesn't happen as dramatically. I think that's my view. Yes.
I think with everything that the average family unit is up against today in terms of time constraints and other constraints, it's vital that organizational behaviors from different venues allow that opportunity to create that environment where A, you can access the water, B, it's safe for you to access the water, we're here to help you access the water, and then you're going to actually gain and grow from that experience. And we're going to be able to show you as an organization, whether we're a museum, a sailing school, a cultural center, or whatever, how you are going to benefit. And so it cuts across all those other
What sailing can do, unlike any other hobby that American families have right now, is to say to the family, we can show you a way of living that will be much more interesting, much more enjoyable, much more constructive, much more conducive to learning than just about anything else. We can do that. All you have to do is say, okay, you can have me on Sunday afternoons, and her too, and him too, and him too. That's all you have to do. It's a really simple, to me, it's a pretty simple formula. And I think this activity is so primed for it. And then the things we were talking about earlier today come right into view. You get to study weather, and you get to study water, and you get to study resources, and you get to study animals and biology, and you get to think about architecture and design and speed and all the other stuff that all the stuff that sparkles out of sailing that we are all aware of that most families are not aware of.
So my other part of that and comment question is, do we start to hone in on what the pitfalls and pratfalls are of organizations like this being able to survive and grow and foster this whole kind of activity and that we want to introduce on a larger scale? And I'm talking about liability issues and all that sort of stuff that nobody wants to really hear, but also the cultural differences or the ethnicity demographics that seem to show where a lot of kids in urban centers don't have access to water, aren't comfortable swimming. You hear about those 1 or 2 drowning incidents, and then they're afraid to go near the water's edge. How do we start to wrestle?
So I'm going to tell you a couple things about that. The Jackson Park Yacht Club that I told you about that had the average age joining at 63 or something like that. Remember that those stats? That club is 60% African American. It's on the south side of Chicago where Michelle Obama grew up. And when you go in there and you speak with its 250 or 300 members, it's amazing. There's grandpa and daughter and granddaughter all sitting at a table having grown up sailing together. Okay? So to me, the concept of role modeling, mentoring, and parenting in this crosses every single boundary that we artificially create. It crosses age boundaries, it crosses race boundaries, it crosses ethnicity boundaries, crosses all those things. And it's a matter about who happens to be in your town. I like to hear a couple things happen on the back end of programs like this.